All right. Hello, everybody. This session is called MBC, Empowering the Patient and Shared Decision Making. My name is Jessica Mace. I am going to be your moderator today. I am a fellow metastatic breast cancer thriver, and I'm very happy to be a volunteer for Young Survivor Coalition and a peer mentor. A couple things before we get started. I wanted to remind you of the Young Survivor Coalition website. It is youngsurvival.org. This session is being audio and video recorded, and you'll be able to access a playback of the recording for the next 30 days on the website. If you have questions during the presentation today, you can put those into the chat, and we'll be going through questions at the end. And I think those are all the housekeeping items. Now it is my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Lily Shockme. She is a University Distinguished Service Professor of Breast Cancer and Professor of Surgery at Johns Hopkins. We are extremely fortunate to have her with us today to talk about this very important topic. So I will let her take it away.
Hello, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon. If we can bring up my first slide, we'll get started. So while I'm waiting, there we go. So to give you a little more background on myself, I am the former director of the Johns Hopkins Breast Center. I am now in my 40th year at Johns Hopkins. I feel like I'm a fixture at this point. I started working there in my late 20s. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in my mid 30s and then diagnosed again at the age of 40, and have been involved with the Young Survival Coalition for decades, literally decades. So I'm going to talk today about shared decision making and how you can go about not just doing it, but doing it confidently and empowering yourself so that you're part of your own treatment team. I want things to be done with you, not done to you. Next slide. So let's start with the definition of shared decision making. And quite frankly, sometimes we even need to tell physicians what the definition is. So shared decision making is a key component of patient-centered healthcare, and I hope that you are receiving patient-centered care, that they know more about you beyond your pathology and what your scans show. They should know not just your age and your name, but what your likes are, what your hobbies are, what kind of work you do, your family life, etc., so that they're taking care of all of you. It is a process in which clinicians and patients work together to make decisions and select tests, treatments, and care plans based on clinical evidence that balances risks and expected outcomes with patient preferences and patient values. And I put down there, if you wanted to read more about how this is defined and some of the specifics and how that came about being defined, I included the URL for you. Next slide. So as you saw in my title, I said that it's an art. Why is there an art to this process? Not everyone is experienced in communicating their thoughts and desires. And you might be dealing with an oncologist who is used to making all of the decisions. And as time gets tighter for physician appointments, we have more breast cancer patients than we've ever had before. And we have fewer medical oncologists than we've ever had before. There's a huge shortage of oncologists in the United States. And that shortage is anticipated to continue for a long time because we don't have a solution for it. People are not choosing when they go into medicine to say, I want to specialize in oncology. They may specialize in surgery, but not even surgical oncology. So it results in trying to put 10 pounds of salt in the 5-pound bag. The physicians are trying to see a lot more patients with less time to do it and less of themselves also being able to do it. So you really do need to know what you want to say and how you want to say it to have your time with your doctor efficient and effective. Next slide. So how to begin? So first, you want to make your doctor, and you obviously may have several doctors, aware from the start that you plan to be a member of your own treatment team, which includes participating actively and confidently in the decision-making process with them. And if you have not done that yet, let's say that you have been having them kind of lead the way, and you now say, gee, I really do want to be a more active participant, then you could initiate that anytime you want to, but you need to make them aware that you would like to be more engaged in these types of decisions. And in order to do that, you need to be empowered with information. So in order to do this, you need to learn first what your doctors are accustomed to doing. Telling their patient what treatments will be done might be the type of doctor or doctors that you have, or engaging their patients in the decision-making process. Time is a known barrier to having longer discussions in clinic about treatment options today. And that's why I'm saying that you want to have your appointment with your doctor or doctors efficient and effective. So you really want to plan that out before you get there, rather than making notes while you're in the waiting room. Next slide. And as I said earlier, you are more than your pathology, and that is one of my mantras. That I'll tell you that when we're having a tumor board discussion, our breast cancer tumor board, if a resident who might be new to Hopkins, stands up and says, I have a 38-year-old white female who I saw with a clinical stage 2A breast cancer, I will clear my throat very loudly, which startles him or her, and they'll look at me, and everyone else is quiet. And then he or she will continue where they left off, saying that palpable lymph node is a possibility, that we're going to do a biopsy in ultrasound, and I clear my throat again. And if he still hasn't said, this is a woman who is a 5th grade school teacher who has a 9-year-old with autism and is in the process of getting a divorce, then I'm just going to stop him from talking completely. And I'm going to just say, stop. And he's going to look at me because he doesn't know me yet, but he won't forget me. And I'll say, who is this woman? And I said, I don't want to know her name. That's not what I'm asking you for. Who is she? And they usually look kind of dumbfounded, don't they? So I said, you sit down and find out who she is. And then I'll say, is she a 5th grade school teacher? Does she have a 9-year-old with autism? Is she in the process of getting a divorce? What are her favorite hobbies? What is she most worried about right now? What is she hoping for? And of course, he's pretty scared because he knows that he can't get back up and present her situation until he does have those answers. But one thing I can guarantee you, any resident that stands up there again that's in the new group starts off with, I met Mary today. And Mary is a 38-year-old school teacher, etc. Because you are more than your pathology. Absolutely. So you do need to provide an overview succinctly of who you are and what are you about. If we don't have the patient do this, then we are treating the disease rather than treating you. And when we're treating a disease, which is what doctors are taught in medical school, treat the disease, treat the disease, treat the disease, then they don't get to know you. Now, some of them may have a wall up and say, I don't want to know her too well. I don't want to get that involved. I'm telling doctors, I want you involved. I want you to know her. She has the right to know you. She even has the right to know what some of your hobbies are, for that matter. I hate the thought of a patient going through treatment and not having the opportunity to have their voice heard. So as you see here in this example that I'm giving, I'm a 5th grade school teacher and I love teaching. The children give me great hope for the future of our world. I have a 5-year-old recently diagnosed with autism. My husband and I have divorced. I hate the thought of him possibly raising our son one day. I like sailing. I like watching chick flicks with my 2 best friends. I'm very active in my church and have supportive coworkers who know my clinical situation. Quality of life is important to me. Feeling confident, I am on the right treatment plan at any given time is imperative. I don't want to be constantly second guessing if a different treatment plan I had just heard about, maybe on television or read online, might have been a better choice for me at this time. Next slide. So you can see how you're really opening up. You're really letting your team know who you are and what you're about. There are some key questions that I ask my patients. And I think that if I had I do have a magic wand. I have 3 magic wands from Disney over here. They don't work very well, but I still use them periodically. I wish that every physician asked their patients this information. I do teach in the medical school, teaching residents and teaching fellows. My background is as an oncology nurse and nurse navigator, but the medical board and the dean of the School of Medicine and the President University made a decision to have me have a faculty appointment in the School of Medicine as my primary appointment, and they credentialed me as a physician. And I'm the only one in the country that's in that, I'm going to say, situation. But it has allowed me to teach some points that they don't otherwise learn. So the physicians that I work with know these questions very well. We actually put them on the back of our ID badges, though I hope no one has to turn their ID badge over and read them. So how much do you know about your metastatic breast cancer? How much do you want to know about your metastatic breast cancer? Now, I conduct metastatic breast cancer retreats 2 a year. One is for couples, so the patient brings their spouse or partner. The other is for women not in a relationship, so they bring their female caregiver, which could be their mother, their sister, their daughter, sometimes even their best friend. I had a patient come to one of our retreats who came from West Virginia. She was not a patient we were taking care of. I open this up to patients anywhere. It doesn't matter where you live or who's taking care of you. You are welcome to attend our retreats. And when I was talking about at the very beginning about, tell us about your metastatic breast cancer, which is also known as stage 4 breast cancer, this woman spoke up and said, well, I have metastatic breast cancer. It's in my my lungs and my bones, but I'm not stage 4 yet. I was like, oh, wow, holy schmoly. So that told me that no one had done a fact check with her for her to understand that those two things are in fact the same thing. And then second, how much do you want to know about your metastatic breast cancer? Some of us want to know everything, absolutely everything. Others want what I call just-in-time information. Just answer the questions that I ask you and don't tell me any more than that. Whereas others say, I want to know everything and I want to look at the long view. I want you to plan out how you think things are going to go and what are the points in time where decisions will need to be made, how far along in the future are they, and what you think my options will be when it's time to make those treatment decisions. What are you hoping for right now? Keeping in mind that over time, your hopes also will probably change. What are you most worried about right now? Some people are worried about their finances. Some people are worried that they won't be well enough to work and that they might lose their health insurance. Others, as was the example I gave you, was worried that one day her ex-husband will be raising their little boy, and that's a true story. That's a true situation of that patient I described to you. But what we worry about does, again, change over time. Tell me 3 things that bring you joy. You can learn a lot about an individual by asking them those questions, believe me. And again, those joys may change over time. If you are not asked these questions, I want you to bring them with you on a piece of paper and say, I have some answers I want to provide to you today that we haven't talked about yet. And I want you to teach your doctor these questions and encourage him or her to be asking these exact same questions, not just of you, but also of the other patients that he or she is taking care of. So I know I have stage 4 breast cancer that started in my left breast, moved to my lymph nodes, then spread onto my bones and lungs. I want to be involved in the decision-making about my care and treatment and be given honest information about my clinical decision always. There are some patients, believe it or not, that have said, if you think my time is running out, I don't want to know. And that's when I have to get tough with that patient and say, I want you to know. You need to know what your timeline is. You don't want to have a fire drill towards the end. That's bad for you. It's bad for your family. It's bad for everyone. Next slide. So some other questions. What are you hoping for today? And so as your hopes change, these new hopes need to be communicated to your treatment team. You may be hoping for a miracle initially, and later you're hoping to be able to watch your daughter get married next year. What your worries are today will also change over time. You may be worried about going bankrupt. 23% of patients with advanced cancer file for bankruptcy during their treatment. And that means that we aren't doing a very good job of getting financial support for them, of getting drugs discounted, which all pharmaceutical companies do, or also seeking out advocacy organizations that provide help with financial needs. So it might be that your health insurance covers things very well, but you're not able to work. So you have a mortgage and you have grocery bills, etc. There are advocacy organizations that will pick up those expenses for you. And your nurse navigator should be the one that will know what those resources are, and they're available locally, regionally, and nationally, and they're underused. You may, at some time later, you may be worried that your children will forget you, particularly if your children are very, very young. Let's say 1-year-old, 2-year-old. And I know that many of you are with the Young Survival Coalition, as I've been since shortly after my diagnosis. Next slide. So what brings you joy? And oftentimes we don't think about that, but I want you to think about that every single day. You might think that's a corny question, but it really does tell us a whole lot about you. It tells us what you value, tells us what's important to you today. So joys do change over time. Things that I enjoy is spending time with my grandchildren that are now teenagers. They still tell me things that I don't think they would even tell their parents. So I feel like I've got an in with them because they also know I'm not going to tell their parents what they tell me. And I enjoy looking at, right now, this time of year, the forsythias are starting to bloom here on the East Coast. And that gives me hope that spring is right around the corner, despite the fact that last weekend we had 6 inches of snow here in Pennsylvania. I was like 74 degrees on Friday, went outside, took all the patio furniture out, fabulous. The weatherman said there may be a chance of flurries because the temperature is going to drop 45 degrees. I was like, are you kidding me? And then I got up to 6 inches of snow. So I was like, well, but then the forsythia came out a few days later. I'm like, yes, I think that was our last snow. I have hope that now we are entering spring. I look for little things that I didn't look for before. I look to watch a bird sitting on a branch, and what is he seeing or she seeing? Are they picking out the spot where they won't want to build a nest? Probably, because that's the right time of year for that. Are they waiting for another bird to come and join them? Are they looking for a mate? I don't quite know what's going on out there. Yesterday, I saw for the very first time, we have Canada geese here on the lake. I live on Lake Mead in Pennsylvania. And there's a goose that I don't know who his parents were, but he's very odd looking. He's a cross of many different geese for sure. Truly a multiracial goose. He's lived here for 3 years, and he's tried to kind of wiggle his way in with a group, with a gaggle of geese. And they kind of kept him at a distance for the first year, and then they let him swim with them the second year. He has a mate this year. Holy schmoly, I was stunned. So there's the two of them, the Canada goose that you would recognize, and then the one that looks very odd, and they're out there swimming together. And I thought, and they're going to have babies, and I can't wait to see what these babies are going to look like. That's going to be amazing. So that's one of my new joys. And I also have a mantra: don't postpone joy. We have a tendency to do that. And I'll give you an example. One of my patients recently said to me, we've decided to wait and go to Disney World next year or the year after, because I'm doing pretty okay right now. And, you know, I got that on my bucket list, and I don't want to think about my bucket list yet. And I said, Beth, I want you to go to Disney World as soon as you can, because you are feeling well right now. I want you to enjoy Disney World with your children, for heaven's sakes. They're 4 and 6. I can't think of a better age to take a child to Disney World than the age of 4 and 6. I don't want you being in a wheelchair having to be pushed around. I don't want you saying, please take me back to the hotel so I can lay down for the afternoon. I want you engaged and having a wonderful time at Disney World. And she said, I never looked at it that way. I looked at my bucket list as things I have to do in a hurry at the end. I said, you won't be well enough to do anything in a hurry at the end. So in October, they're going to Disney World. I'm saying, yes, go to Disney World. Absolutely. Next slide. You don't need to be a cancer expert to understand the basics. You need to explain how you learn best, however. Do you like to use an analogy? Some people like to look at actual statistics, bar charts, for example. Do you enjoy reading research articles, and are you able to comprehend them? Or do you seek out sites that translate research articles into layman's terms and that you follow that website? Patient education information is oftentimes written at an 8th grade level. There is a lot of effort underway right now, however, to rewrite patient education literature at a 5th grade level. And I'm all in favor of that. Do you like being told a story? Is that a good way for you to learn? And you hear me telling you stories, because I think that is a good way to learn. And I think it's a way to absorb information and retain it and be able to share it then with someone else. And by being given examples, I want to go back to the bar chart, because I think this is an interesting example. We did a study at Johns Hopkins some years back with prostate cancer patients that had metastatic disease. And we showed them individually a bar chart. One bar was 99%, the other bar was 1%. So you imagine a little tiny bar, great big tall bar. And the physician said, we've got one treatment left, but it is a phase 1 clinical trial. You are a candidate for it. I do think it would make you pretty sick. You may even need to be hospitalized. But here's what the statistics show. You know, here's the 1% that will benefit and the 99% that won't. Do you want to do this study? 80% of those patients said yes. Now we put the bar chart down and we took a blank piece of paper, and while talking to them about phase 1 clinical trials, we just put 100 dots all over the paper. And we counted them. Is it 1, 2, 3, 4? Counted them. And then showed the paper and said, 1 out of 100 patients will benefit from this phase 1 clinical trial. You're probably going to get really sick. You're probably even end up in the hospital. Do you want to do this study? And over 90% said, well, which dot is going to get the benefit, and how do you get me to be that one? We don't know who the one is. Oh, I thought with the bar chart, you could get me in that little bar. No, we don't know. So you see how information can be misleading. People can make assumptions about what they're being told and shown. So we need to clear that up to make sure that that's very, very clear as to what we are showing, what we're trying to explain. And we want feedback from patients. Doctors say, you understood what I said, right? They just want a yes answer. I was never taught to get feedback that way. I was taught to ask, repeat back to me your understanding of what I just said. Now we've got a dialogue so I can make sure that what I did say was understood with the intent that I meant. Next slide. So what's important to you? Maintaining quality of life during treatment by minimizing side effects, preserving your family time, social time, work time, and personal time. Let's say you need to get radiation treatments. Don't go at 1:30 in the afternoon because that's the time that the scheduler gave you. You say, I want the 7 a.m. appointment or the 5:30 p.m. appointment. I don't want this to disrupt my day. I don't want it to disrupt my life. I only want you to give metastatic breast cancer what it needs to keep it in control. I don't want it to own your time. Preserve important upcoming milestones. Make your physicians and nurses aware that your son's graduation is on June 5th, that your daughter's 16th birthday party is on whatever that day is, that your parents' 40th anniversary, which you're helping to plan, and when that is, and then go backwards from those milestone dates into your treatment with the intention that on those milestone days, you will be feeling well. It would be awful to be receiving chemotherapy on, say, Thursday, and your daughter's getting married on Saturday, and you feel like crap. What would be smarter is for your doctor to say, let's give you a drug holiday. You need a drug holiday because I want you to feel good at your daughter's wedding. And all of that is very doable. And your voice needs to speak up, though, because otherwise they aren't going to know about these milestones and what's important to you. Next slide. So also make your life goals known. Where did you see yourself in your future before you were diagnosed? I ask this of all of my patients, those with early stage breast cancer and those with metastatic disease. And it's not because one of my magic wands is going to work and you're going to die at the age of 94. It's because I still want to figure out how to make these happen, how to fulfill these life goals, these future hopes. So getting a promotion next year, that's what you're hoping for. You probably want to work during a lot of your treatment to demonstrate to your supervisor, your boss, the vice president, the CEO, that you are really committed to the corporation. You want to finish your studies to get to your teaching degree. Is this still something that you want to do? That may be on your bucket list. Then let's work on it and let's make that known, which means that we've got to also evaluate what drugs may be doing for cognitive functioning. Being present at your son's high school graduation, realizing that he's only 10 years old right now. If your doctors are saying, you know, we may be running out of treatments 3 or 4 years from now, we need to take that seriously. That doesn't mean that there aren't going to be new treatments by then, but I'm a planner. I've been a planner since I was little, and I'm always trying to be optimistic for as long as it's realistic, but I got to have a plan B, always, always, always. So let's say your son is 10 and he's going to graduate when he's 18, and your doctors have said, I'm going to right now say maybe you have 5 or 6 more good years. You may not be here to see your son graduate. Then I want him to have a graduation card from you and a letter in it that tells him how proud you are of him, that tells you that you hope that he has a wonderful career, that he goes on for continued education at college, and what all of your future hopes are for him regarding his line of work that he's going to be doing. He will never throw away that card. He will never toss that letter. I've been doing this for 24 years, having patients select cards like that. I have these cards for my grandchildren. They don't know that. My daughter knows that. I don't think I have breast cancer right now, but I've traveled this road 3 times. I also could be hit by a truck tomorrow. I still want to have my say. I still want to have control over what I get to say to my grandchildren when my grandson gets his driver's license next year. When my granddaughter goes to a dance performance that she's in. So right now I can hand them a card and say, I just wanted you to have this because this is a milestone event for you today. But I won't be here one day. I don't know if that'll be sooner versus later, but I still want them to know how important they are to me and what I'm hoping for them. I receive phone calls and letters from children who are now grown. And I'll tell you about one of them because it's one that I remember the best. I got a phone call from a young woman that I'd never met. And she said, oh my gosh, Miss Lily, I've never met you. She said, I didn't know if you still worked at Johns Hopkins or not, and I only knew your first name. She said, when I was 10, you took care of my mother. And my mother was in and out of the hospital a lot during the last 6 months of her life. And each time my father would bring her home, my Aunt Sarah, her sister, would come over to help take care of her. And I would hear my mother saying to Aunt Sarah, Lily said to do this and Lily said to do that, but I didn't know who you were or what you were telling my mother till she passed away and my Aunt Sarah became the keeper of my cards. She said, every milestone in my life, there's been a card and her words of wisdom and her motherly love and good advice waiting for me. And she said, 3 weeks ago, I got married. And she said, as my Aunt Sarah helped me put on my veil, she hands me a card from my mother. And she said the edging of the envelope had yellowed because after all, it was 14 years old. She said, I opened it up. It was a beautiful card. And inside, my mother had written down the left-hand side, I know you would have chosen wisely who was deserving to have you spend the rest of your life with. In the middle, she wrote, marital advice, don't ever go to bed angry with one another. Whatever it is can be talked through. And at the bottom, she wrote, when your dad lifts your veil and kisses your left cheek, you will feel me kiss your right. She said, Miss Lily, I had to track you down to tell you, I swear I felt my mother's kiss. I have always felt my mother's presence through these cards. She said, I asked my Aunt Sarah if this is my last card, but she didn't answer me. So is this my last card? As would you have planned to have a family? She said, yes, we hope to start a family in about 1.5 years. I said, when you learn you're expecting, there's a letter from your mother describing how she felt when she knew she was carrying you. When the baby is born, there is a letter from your mother describing how she felt the first time she held you and all of her hopes for you in your future. And when the child is a toddler, your mother has recorded her voice saying nursery rhymes and children's stories so your children will know their grandmother. And she was so thrilled to hear that. Next slide. You really aren't making decisions as much as you're making choices. I feel like decisions sound too radical, but you have choices. You could do this, or you could do that, or you can do this, or you could do that. And I think then it's less burdensome for us. So you want laid out for you what the risks and benefits are for each treatment you are presently a candidate for receiving. If the side effects are harsh and hard to control, but provide a slightly better opportunity for a month or so of longer life, do you want treatment A or treatment B? B being less side effects and potentially 1 to 2 months less time. I'm a strong believer that when I'm getting a clinical medical presentation, a research presentation that's showing a line graph and say, patients live 4 months longer on this drug. I always put my hand up. I'm the annoying person in the room and I say, was she lived 4 months longer? Was she living or just existing? Was she in the hospital? Was she enjoying herself? Because if she's not living on her terms, why are we putting her through this? What's the purpose of this? And then they show the slide of all of the side effects. I go, Go back to that previous slide then. You're confirming for me that she's been really sick. This group of patients was awfully, awfully sick. So don't take pride in showing that someone existed for 4 more months. So remember, you don't want to be existing, you want to be actively living as long as possible. Next slide. So many doctors have difficulty having difficult discussions. As I said, I had one patient, she knew she had metastatic breast cancer, but she didn't know it was stage 4. And that's because her doctor didn't have a good dialogue with her to explain to her what that meant. Doctors are known for postponing bad news associated with progression of disease, with prognoses, with lack of treatments to offer. Doctors are taught to treat the disease as long as you have another treatment to offer. That may not be in your best interest. Palliative care gets a bad rap. Palliative care, in many people's minds, including doctors, is only associated with hospice care. Palliative care is there to stand alone. And I require that every one of my metastatic breast cancer patients has a palliative care expert as part of the team. That palliative care expert, I don't call a palliative care person. This is your quality of life coach. That's their job, to preserve your quality of life or restore your quality of life. And they do it really well, and they usually do it without narcotics. So if you're having pain somewhere, it might require a nerve block or radiation to take the pain away, rather than having you in bed still having some pain and snockered out with narcotics. Medical oncologists are in more of a habit of using opioids. So I hope all of you have a quality of life coach. You deserve one, and they are out there for you. So make sure that you have one. When and how to decide to stop treatment and enroll in hospice also needs to be a discussion that you have with your doctor. Today, on average, patients only receive 5 days of hospice care, and that's because the patient was too ill to continue treatment. Hospice is intended for 6 months. Those that enroll early live longer and have better quality of life, and there's 6 research studies to prove that. I want to now open it up to questions because I know we're running short on time. And so I have a moderator to tell me what you've been entering in the chat field.
Yes, well, I just want to start by saying thank you for this very valuable information. I think it just serves us all so well to be reminded that our goals and joys can be woven into the fabric of the decisions we make about treatment. So first, starting just with gratitude for that. Another thing that has come up is we were wondering if you could share any further or point us to somewhere where we could find further information about the retreats that you mentioned.
Sure. Just email me. My email, SHOCKLI, so it's shock from Shakti and LI from Lily, at JHMI, Johns Hopkins Medical Institution, .edu, and I'll say that again, SHOCKLI at JHMI.edu. They are free for you to attend. You just need to get to me. I hold them at a retreat center. I'm about to hold my 30th one very soon. I also have launched these many, many years ago. I started these in 2006. I have other breast centers across the country also now doing them, which I'm real tickled about because I didn't want to be the only show in the country, for heaven's sakes. I also have orchestrated them for the last 10 years for patients with metastatic colorectal cancer, advanced pancreatic cancer, advanced GYN oncology cancer, and next month I will do the very first one on advanced prostate cancer couples retreat. So I'm quite enthused about that. We limit it to 12 couples or 12 if it's for the one that's not for couples, it's for patients bringing their family caregiver with them. We limit it to 12 patients and 12 loved ones, because we really want to have individual time with you. This isn't a seminar. It's 3 days and 2 nights. So it's a lot of time together. You get to network together. We talk about the hard questions that nobody else wants to talk about. I promised a great deal of laughter. I incorporate laughter into all of my treatment plans. Every time you have a genuine belly laugh, your body's producing T cells, which are the cells in your body that fight cancer cells. So each time you have a genuine belly laugh, you're actually doing some of your own treatment. So do take advantage of laughter. And I'd love to see you come to one of our retreats. Yes.
Okay. We have a question, a hand raised. You can go ahead and unmute.
Hi, I'm
Hi,
Jessica.
Jessica.
This has been a great presentation. Thank you so much for your time. I've really enjoyed it. I was wondering if you had any tips for trying to, I'm seen at a large medical institution here on the East Coast as well. I had an oncologist for all of my early stage. I had 2 early stage diagnoses, and I'm trying to see someone else now, largely because I have so much PTSD from the first doctor that, like, I think of her and I'm like, I can't be in a room with you anymore. She's great, but like, I can't do it. I've been seeing someone else in the meantime, but they're really kind of giving me like a lot of crap, for lack of better words, for like trying to just see a different doctor. It's like, you can't switch all of this. And I understand and have a greater understanding, thanks to your presentation, about doctors having limited time. But I just feel like I should have the right to see a second doctor at this institution. And
yes. Yeah, you do have the right to see another doctor. You have the right to switch to another doctor.
yeah.
And frankly, if they're resisting that, then you have to raise the question for yourself: am I with the right team, or should I get a second opinion elsewhere and maybe even transfer my care elsewhere? Because you do have the right to see someone else, and you've given them the reason, for heaven's sakes. It's not because you're doctor shopping.
Right.
Right. So when people are not fulfilling expectations and have made it clear back to you they don't intend to, you need to say, bye, I got to move on, because I need people that understand me, that understand why I need to see someone else and stay with someone else and have my voice heard. You don't want to be, blue every time you walk into the room and see that doctor's face. That's unhelpful and unhealthy. So I'd seek a second opinion, probably at another large institution. Hopefully you live in an area where you can get access to more than just one where you're going to now, because I want you to have full access to clinical trials and the most up-to-date treatment plans that are available. That's the thing I always worry about for women that live in very rural areas. They might just have like one medical oncologist in a 50-mile radius who's the jack of all trades, a master of none. And I'm like, oh my God. And even in those situations, I'll say, go somewhere else and get the treatment plan, and then go back and have the treatment plan implemented with that rural doctor, and connect the rural doctor up with experts so that when a question comes up, they can have a conversation and you can have a conversation. So yeah.
These people are the experts. So that's why I haven't completely been like, screw you, I'm done. Like, this is the place where you want to be comparing notes. So
I promise you there are other experts. They're not the only ones in the country or the only ones in the city. I guarantee it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have just about another minute left, so I wanted to see if there were any other questions. List of letter topics. Do you have that resource anywhere? As we think about leaving letters to loved ones for, do you have?
Yes. So birthdays, especially if you celebrate those in a big way, any anniversaries, for children, getting driver's license is important and scary. The gal that I gave you the example of, the 24-year-old woman, she told me, she said when she got her driver's license, her mother had a card for her, and it said, "Please do not drive like your father. Please do drive like Aunt Sarah." So I thought that was great. High school graduation, college graduation, keeping in mind that maybe your child may not go to college, but you still have that card there and the instructions for the person that you're having be the keeper of your cards. And you write on the back of the card what the milestone is, that you write college graduation. When they get their first career job, that's a big deal. It's a very big deal. When they get married, when they have their first baby, and that includes for sons. What do you want to tell them? That's awfully important. We just don't do this for girls, we also do this for boys. And if there are significant holidays that carry significance for you and your family, first confirmation for Christians, bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah, for Jewish children also are really important. I actually think, this may sound crazy, I think that my patients who have passed away are doing a better job of raising their children now than those that are here living, because they are thoughtfully thinking, what do they want to say? And they're writing it down. And that child is taking that to heart and saying, I really want to listen to my mom right now. This is important. I want to listen to my mom. Now, you may also want to do cards for a spouse. And it may be, one woman told me she did a card. She said, after I'm gone, I want a card for when I've been gone 1 year and when I've been gone 5 years. And my card for 5 years, I wanted to be that he's moved on with his life by then, that he's on track and enjoying his life. That's an incredible act of giving permission, really is. An
important message.
Yeah, it is, really is.
And then I'm so sorry to cut you off, but we have to end it. And I'm so sorry to do so, because these are all such important messages and ones I know we're so grateful for and will benefit us. I will thank you.
So you have my email address. If you just Google me, it'll come up too. I come up all over the place. So feel free to write to me, personally and say, I have another question, or I wrote a question that there wasn't time for, or I just thought of a question. I'm just a mouse click away, girls. I'm just a mouse click away. Okay.
Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. And I know I enjoyed the presentation, and I know so many did too. A couple quick notes for attendees. You can head over to the next activity, Never Have I Ever Breast Cancer Edition. You can head over to the main stage by clicking on the YSC logo on the top left of the event page. And you can meet Tamika and Lindsay to play a game. And then after that, I believe the exhibit hall will be open, where you can also find me. I'll be exhibiting my organization Care Better. So maybe I'll see you all there. And there will be a survey about the presentation where you can be entered into a drawing. So fill that out too. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Shafmi.
Thank you. Thank you.
See everybody soon.
Okay. Take care, everyone.